There we go. We're good now.
Yeah.
It just needed a reboot. Hello. Yep.
Howdy doody.
Yep. We're good. We're good. It does make me go into a little bit of a panic when it doesn't work. And then I remembered that there was Hard Solo sitting next to me and all of my worries went away.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it?
Yes. Good to go?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Or are you still reading?
I'm always reading. I'm going to cock it up somewhere.
That is what editing is for.
Yes, I will see. I can't get over this windmill or turbine.
Yeah, that's weird. Maybe we talk about that. Maybe I can buy this block of land and then I'll put one in my backyard.
I'm surprised that many people haven't, but you do realise just putting windmill doesn't mean it actually generates power.
No.
It doesn't mean you get consistent wind.
Depends how many baked beans you've had.
Oh, gee. That's as bad as all the jokes about the shanks today.
Oh, they were bad.
Oh, no, they got worse. They definitely got worse.
Don't talk about Shanks. I'll introduce the podcast as Frank Shanks.
Oh, don't. You heard what happened. Oh, yeah. I did tell you that. Oh, man. Highly inappropriate.
Highly inappropriate.
Freaking
Not
funny.
for podcasts.
Bloody funny, though. All right, I'm good.
All right. We'll just roll with it then. Hello and welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. I'm your host, Amelia, and once again we're joined by Frank Geskis.
How are you, Amelia?
Oh, look, it's Friday. I'm pretty happy.
Yes. You seem hopefully happy on a Friday, don't you?
I'm sure everyone else is the same.
True. End of the week. It's always good. Looking forward to the weekend.
Exactly. We're going to talk about sheds today, aren't we?
Oh, I love sheds.
Sheds and...
Who doesn't love a shed?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the great Australian dream.
You've got garden sheds.
No.
Oh, no?
No, man caves.
Oh,
Cars.
righto.
You've got to put your pride and joy somewhere.
You're talking about your cars
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
or your bars.
No. just put the cars in there, or some people got bikes. Oh, no, one guy's got trucks.
Caravans.
Yeah, all that. Just being a workshop, place to hang out, place to put the April table and a wood fire.
Exactly. We all need a place for that.
Yes. And some would call it a doghouse.
Oh.
When you've been a bad boy and the wife kicks you out, you've got somewhere to go.
You sound like you've got a little bit of experience with
Definitely not. No.
You have a very patient wife then.
I've got a very patient wife.
So,
Or should I say I'm a patient husband?
well, it depends which way you want to look at it.
Yeah, there's always 2 points of
There's
view on
two
this,
sides.
isn't there?
Yeah,
definitely,
exactly.
Definitely. Yeah, sheds. Yes. It's a thing that you look everywhere in all these houses and there's Colorbond sheds everywhere. And I'm talking about tin sheds, Colorbond clad. If you don't, we call it Colorbond, that's the coating, but they're just metal framed, metal clad sheds. Bang for your buck, dollar-wise, they are fantastic. They're relatively easy to put up and relatively easy to get approvals for.
Well, so you do need approval for them.
Well, it depends. In Tasmania, we have a couple of rules that I don't know how the other states are, but in Tasmania, if you buy a kit shed, there's plenty of manufacturers out there that will supply you with a kit shed. And I call them kits because everything's prefabricated, bolts together, screw the sheeting on, put the gutters on, attach the downpipes to the stormwater system, and happy days.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, until you try and put one up yourself. You get someone who's experienced putting it up, it's a lot easier. So in Tasmania, we have different... I'll go back one step. We have the building code we talk about, the National Construction Code. Every state's got their own building act and regulations, which has the underlying things when you need to have permits and what you're allowed to do, not to do. In Tasmania, we have that, and it's called the Building Act, which is really exciting. But they also have a number of other underlying documents that tells you what needs a permit and what doesn't need a permit. So the document we have in Tasmania is called the Director's Determination Categories of Building and Demolition.
That sounds really riveting. Read. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it'll put you to sleep pretty quick, especially if you're not familiar with the terms. And it's only like a 75-page document, lots of tables and stuff in there. But we have to use this on a regular basis to determine what type of permit you need.
And so this is only relevant to Tasmania, this document?
Yeah, exactly. So every state's got their own way of doing things. But to be fair, the Tasmanian government did some of this and obviously put it all together. And generally it's not bad. Some of it's really dumb. That's stuff that doesn't fit within there. Your 1%ers that doesn't fit within these. And we've got to work with the building surveyors to get clarity on some of these too. But we're going to talk about sheds. We're going to keep it really easy. So there are 4 categories in Tasmania that categories of work. And category 1 is called low risk building work that can be done by the owner, licensed builder or competent person. I don't actually know how that's determined, but anyway. Category 2, low risk building work. This work can be done by a licensed builder and in some cases an indicated a competent person, but you've got to provide evidence. Category 3, notifiable building works. This is works that can only be done where a building surveyor is engaged. Remember, the building surveyors are the guys that stamp it, say, yep, it complies, or if there's things missing, you need to address these items off your drawings and your documents and reports. They carry out their assessment, notify the relevant permit authority, which is the council, and they only have to notify them, and they can start building.
Okay.
Now, remember, this is not plumbing. Plumbing's completely different. It's got its own set of rules. So then category 4 is permit building work where the works require a permit issued by the relevant council permit authority. So it has to go through the council permit system after the building surveyor's done their component.
Okay.
Okay, so I got that. So sheds, you can do a shed under category 2, which means you don't have to get a building permit.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good.
Of course it is. So you just grab someone to go pour a slab based off the drawings that the shed manufacturer provides, and you get someone to put up the shed, the frame, the steel, and hook up the gutters, and then you need a plumber to hook up the downpipes, and you still need a plumbing permit though.
That makes sense. I mean, if you need a plumber,
yeah,
you're going to need a plumbing permit.
But it's got to be connected and done properly. Okay? But to be fair, it's 2 pieces of pipe connecting into a stormwater pipe. It's not hard, but them's the rules, and they've chosen that you need a plumber to do that.
So is this dependent on size of the shed?
Yeah, it is. So under the director's determination, so the book that we're using, and in the area it says no permit required. So if you want a shed, garage or a carport or similar, the maximum size is 36 square metres. So that's 6 by 6. So you can fit 2 cars in there quite easily. So it's not a small shed.
Basically a garage, really.
Well, it is. It is. It can be a carport. And a maximum ridge height is 4.5, maximum wall height 3.6, and the maximum span, like the opening, how far wall to wall, is 9 metres. Most people go 6 by 6 because that's perfect for putting 2 normal sized cars in.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So there are other limitations to that, and this is where no one's checking if someone wants to build a shed in the backyard, who's checked if you're actually allowed to. Now, I just said it needs no permit, right?
Yes.
But there's other things that have to be considered.
What if there's an easement running through?
Yes, we've spoken about easements.
Yes.
And that means there could be a pipe through there, those types of things. So you need to check your title, but it may not be in titles. Tasmania, we've got some of the oldest infrastructure in Australia, and you could have a pipe there that no one even knows about.
Oh, that could
And
be
guess
a
what?
problem.
You're still not allowed to build over it.
Oh, dear.
So that has to be checked. You've got to find it. Easements, obviously, you look at easement, there's a pipe. There's ways of finding it online, or go to your local council or your friendly members at Taswater can certainly assist you, but all this stuff is finding the infrastructure is online. So also, what happens if you're building too close to someone else's building?
Yeah, I guess, wouldn't there be a minimum setback that you're allowed to build
Yeah, very
from?
much so. So some of there's limitation of what they're allowed to do. So there's standard limitations, like, for argument's sake, say if you're on a steep site, still says you don't need a permit, right?
Yeah, but what if you need a retaining wall?
Thank you. That's exactly right. What else you've got to cut in? So under limitations, there's a whole document that says what limitations like, how much you can cut into the site. So if you're within 1.5 metres of the boundary, you can't cut any more than half a metre. So if you're more than 1.5, you can go 1.2 metres.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's by a competent person. If it's a licensed builder, it's the only difference is if you're more than 1.5 metres away, your retaining wall or fill, it's the other way too, putting dirt in place, can be 1.8.
Okay.
That's a fairly decent height.
Yeah, that is decent.
So you can't do building or demolition work in a hazardous area. So bushfire. So we've talked about bushfire. So if your shed is within 2 metres of your house and you're in within 6 metres of your house and you're in a bushfire prone zone, so it might be 4 metres away, you actually have to have a bushfire assessment to see if it's going to be safe. But if you don't know that you need one, this is the trick.
Yeah.
You don't know.
If you don't need a permit, then what's going to trigger you knowing these things?
Exactly.
Yep.
What happens if it's landslip? You're building on landslip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can. Most of the time, you can look that up, though.
You can, but then what do you do? To the average punter, well, what do I do now?
Well, would you have to get a landslip assessment?
Yeah, but it depends on what level you need. So there's all these things. So I'll continue here. Coastal inundation, where the sea level rise.
And we talked about this in our previous podcast.
Coastal erosion.
Yes.
Yes. Riverine inundation. What that actually means is flood-prone areas.
Yeah, I could see that being a bit of a problem.
Yeah. And funny enough, flood-prone areas not what you think sometimes. So when you have big storms, water will naturally go the easiest path, right? And that could be down the street and then through your property.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, we just had one. We were looking to do an extension for someone, and we had a look at the overlays, and then they had the flood-prone area. Oh, really? Had a look. All the water naturally goes down this driveway, down to a cul-de-sac, and then through this person's property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the modelling of it. So, yeah, we have to work our way through to try and deal with that. And then separation from other buildings. So, if you're doing a shed, stay 900 millimetres away from the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
That's your normal National Construction Code setback for houses and sheds. So you keep it 900 mil away, so then you don't have any problems. Now, away from the boundary, I should say. Sorry, should have been clear on that. Or the neighbour's house. The house of the neighbour might be closer than that. You've got to still stay 900 mil away. This is where it gets tricky. If the shed is put between a couple of houses, it comes all these different distances under the National Construction Code. Most people just put them in the backyard though.
Yeah, most people.
But it's where carports get interesting, because carports fit, they put them by the side of the house. How close is it to the boundary and to the neighbouring property?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And do you need a permit for those?
Yes, you do, very much so.
Really?
When you start triggering, get within 900 mil, yes, 900 mil of the boundary, you're going to need to go for a planning permit.
Even if it's just a carport?
Yes, you've got to go through the rules. Now, good thing, planning. our favourite topic.
Yes, we've talked
We
about
had
this
Nick here
before.
before, and that was really intense, and going through the philosophy and stuff of planning. But bottom line is, how do you know if your shed is going to be placed, and there's an overlay?
Yes.
Because you might have a flora and fauna protection overlay. That means looking after special species of plants, or the vulnerable. What was that? Vulnerable. Oh, the cute furry animal.
You always call it that.
And to be fair and Tassie, we've got cute furry animals everywhere. And if there's a habitat, you can't just go build in this habitat. And that habitat could be partly on your land.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Exactly.
You need to be checked out. So all these things make it really interesting. So yes, you can build a shed without a permit, but you may get tripped up over all these things we've just spoken about. So, and to be fair, a lot of people just put up sheds without even checking this. Yep, I can put a shed up, bang, put it up. And it's up, and they never got a plumbing permit. They've got it up, and it becomes a problem when they go to sell.
Yes. Yes.
If someone picks it up. Same with, you can't build it near a gas line, electrical easement, all these types of things. Or, here's another good one. How about if you're on a rural block and we talk about septics, or your waste goes into a septic tank or a AWTS or packaged treatment plant, and that is then dispersed to trenches under the ground or irrigation, drippers under the ground, you can't build within 3 metres of that with your shed.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's all these little tricks, isn't it?
And yeah, most people, I didn't know that. Most people are probably not going to know that.
So be careful where you put your shed or where you want to put your shed.
Definitely.
So the funny thing is the government's allowed this, and I think, to a point I think it's a good idea. But I'm a bit puzzled why there hasn't been a system where, yes, I've proved it doesn't need bushfire, it's not landslip, it doesn't have a planning overlay. I'm not this close to the boundary. I am digging this much out. And you give that to the council.
Yeah.
As evidence.
Why couldn't there be some sort of checklist or something that's quickly sort of tick and flick that you receive when you want to do that kind of work?
Exactly. So potentially you've got these sheds out there that you really need to check before you buy a property with a shed.
And would a conveyancer pick up on those sort of things, do you reckon?
No, it's not their job.
True.
To be fair, that's not their job to look at building plans and see if they've built over something. This came back to buyer beware. We were talking about this a while ago, that the conveyancer does their job and does it very well, all the legal aspects of it, and they leave to you to check everything. You then need to go to council to see what's been built, what's got permits. Now, here's the trick. Shed's there, and they'll say, shed doesn't need a permit. But what happens if it was built over a pipe?
Yeah. Or what if it was really, really old?
Yeah, well, great question, because we've had a few of those too.
Yeah, because sometimes it wouldn't even show up, I imagine, on some things.
Oh, it may not show up on all the permits, but it comes up on the aerial satellite photographs.
Yes.
They see all.
They do. You can't hide.
You cannot hide. But we've come across really old sheds that never had permits because they probably didn't need permits back then.
No, probably not.
So there's been a negotiation with that. But if we stick with the colour-bond sheds, it's very hard to check that. Someone can do it, we can do an independent check. It's not hard at all. But what do you do when you find it? As soon as you buy it, it's your problem.
Yes.
You inherit the problem. Doesn't matter what problem's on site, what's wrong on site, you inherit. There's no fallback. So again, we keep talking about research and whatnot, but really there's not a lot of mechanisms to deal with that. Now, if you do build over a pipeline, and if our friendly council or Taswater need to go through there and replace it or do work on it, and you don't have permission to be over it, guess what?
They're just going to rip all the way through it to get to it.
To a point, they're actually a lot nicer than that. I've seen aviaries built over manholes and all sorts of stuff, and people get very upset and they say, well, you've got to move it. We've got to get access.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, by the way, don't build or bury a manhole in your backyard. It's actually illegal because they need to have access. Yeah. I call it a manhole. I should call it an inspection opening.
Yes.
That's a bit more of the newer terms for it. So those big concrete lids that might be sitting out the back, don't bury them. Don't build a shed over it. Don't put a play set over it. Don't put an aviary over it. Don't even put your blow-up pool over it because they need access to these to go the pipes. What if they have to go fix something?
Exactly.
And they have the right to go onto your site to access these. So these are just little things that you've got to be aware of when you're wanting to put a shed, a carport or similar structure prefabricated that you can put up. So what it means is you can put it up yourself if you're competent enough.
Wow.
Well, there's plenty of guys that can do that and girls that can actually do that without a doubt.
I've put up a shed before.
Yeah, exactly.
It was only 3x3, but...
Yeah, and they don't need a permit either.
No.
So
Well,
there's
that's
lots of
lucky.
stuff you can do. Sorry?
That's lucky because I didn't check.
But guess what? You still can't put it over a manhole, you can't put it over a pipe.
Yes, you
There's
still have to
you got to
abide
be
by
careful where you put
those.
it.
Exactly.
You know? Even over the easements, just be prepared to move it if you have to.
Exactly.
They don't move very well. So, yeah. Good opportunity to do some so you don't have to pay extra fees. But also make sure you do your research and don't put it in the wrong spot.
And if you have questions, I guess, give an expert a call. I mean, there's plenty of shed companies, building designers. They're all really good. Really good.
There's one shed company in Tassie that has their own building designer that I'm aware of, and I'm sure he checks all these things out. So that's where some guys just sell a shed. That's all they give you and tell you to go see a designer, building designer, to go sort the rest of it out. Mm-hmm. Or they just sell you something to say, hey, here you go, thanks.
I guess the other thing to check too, like, do you have to check that, I guess, the shed company is it licensed or is able to sell the sheds that, you know what I'm trying to say?
Not selling you a dodgy piece of rubbish that doesn't have certified engineering.
For Australia?
Well, for each state.
Oh, for each state. Okay. Well, there you go. That's what I was trying to get at. Is it compliant for Tasmania?
Great question. Again, you got a ton of those today. You're killing it.
Not bad for Friday.
Yeah, it's very good. So, yes, everything in Tasmania has to be certified. So if you have a shed and you're going to go to the shed guys and they're going to sell you one, it comes with a Form 55 or 35, depending on the situation. It comes with a shed, and that's what you need. That's like your certificate to say, yes, it meets all the minimum requirements of the building code, the wind load codes, and every other code they put on there. So that's very, very important. You make a very good point. And as we were talking about some dodgy brothers putting their humpies or transportable buildings on Gumtree or eBay or whatever, I'm sure there's guys that do the same with sheds.
Oh, I'm sure there would be.
So, make sure you have that. They're a reputable business. Any reputable business will also recommend quality installers, concreters to do the slabs and installers for the sheds as well.
Oh, do they project manage all of that for you too?
Some do. Yeah. There's a good mate of mine, Paul Purdon, down at the One Stop Shed Shop in Hobart.
Oh, yes.
And they do that, and they do a cracking job.
Nice.
They take care of the whole lot, and I think it's a great model. Other shed manufacturers will recommend certain contractors, and they're very, very good contractors. We deal with a number of them here in Lonnie, and they're good operators as well. So if you're going to choose something, if you're tight on budget for it, you can organise it yourself, or I would always go with the shed guys to organise it for you if possible. Mm-hmm. I think we need to get one of these shed companies in.
I've contacted one already. I'm just, in the process of sorting that out.
Because it'd be good, because expanding a little bit further, because you can also do farm sheds without a permit too, up to 200 square metres. Up to
200?
Yep.
Wow.
Don't need a permit.
That's a bit crazy.
As long as you don't have the maximum ridge height, 4.5 wall height. So it's the same old stuff.
Yeah.
But it can only be used for storage and farm type activities. But also, they've still got to comply with all these other regs I was talking about.
Yeah. Bushfire and all the other stuff.
If it's too close to the house, all that type of stuff, or your wastewater. But also, what happens if there's a fibre optic cable going through the property and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's usually what you find on farms, or a water trunk main. So the shed guys offer a huge range of different products, from farm sheds, you've got your home sheds, carports, but also houses made out of sheds, as we lovingly call them shouses.
Yes.
And we've done lots of them. They're great. For some people, it's perfect for what they want. But obviously lots of sheds are used for commercial purposes as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So can't wait to have a chat to them about that.
Yeah, that's all for another podcast.
It is. So, as we always say, research.
That's really the take-home point, isn't it? Do your research.
Just every time we do a podcast, it's like, do your research. But don't put your shed where it shouldn't go. Exactly. Don't get caught out.
And work within the parameters of the regulations of,
But you can download
size.
these regs if you're really, that type of person that loves reading this stuff and understand some of the lingo and the wording. Go for it.
Download the Building Act.
Oh no! Don't download that. That's a whole nother thing. The Building Act of Parliament. Yeah, that's a special document, that one. And we do have to learn a lot about it. So this is actually called Director's Determination, Categories of Building and Demolition. And we use this a lot for obviously what we do.
All right. Well, we might wrap it up there, folks. Thanks for listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.
Catch us later.